the New York Police Department and the New York Fire Service here in Oklahoma City that they have first-rate authorities. Their emergency management people are first-rate. I'm confident in the military authorities and obviously in the President's leadership. But this is just absolutely
Governor, let me interrupt you for just a minute. Britt Hume has some late-breaking information for us out of
John,
Washington.
we've just learned from the White House press pool. That is the group of journalists who stay with the President at all times, fly with him aboard Air Force One, that the President will, in a matter of minutes, be making a statement. There is some mystery about exactly where that statement will come from, whether it will be from Air Force One or some other place where he may have landed. So we await, obviously, with great interest that, but we are within apparently minutes of hearing from the President for the first time since his initial remarks before he got in the air after these attacks originally occurred. So we wait here in Washington to bring that to you as soon as we have a signal from the White House or from wherever the President is.
And almost certainly, Britt, that would not be from the Oval Office. The White House has been evacuated, right?
The White House has been evacuated, and we have no reason to believe that the President's plane has touched down in the Washington area. But communications here are such, John, that all kinds of things could have happened that we don't know about, and indeed that not everybody here on the ground knows about. But the President, of course, travels with the most elaborate communications facilities. The President has, the latest word we have now is the President has touched down at Shreveport, Louisiana, and it is apparently from there that we will hear whatever he has to say. So we are awaiting we're awaiting a signal, a picture, and the words of the President of the United States coming from Shreveport, Louisiana, a place that the military apparently felt that the President was safe to go. So we are watching and waiting for that, John.
All right, Britt Hume in Washington, thanks very much. We will continue to await the words of the President when he gets to a television transmission facility, apparently, as Britt told you, there in Shreveport. Frank Keating, the governor of Oklahoma, still on the line with us. Governor, you've been in this position. You've had to calm a populace horrified by a sudden terrorist strike. What does the President need to say, and how do Americans need to take in this cataclysmic disaster?
Well, this is an attack, an act of war against the United States. In my case, it was a domestic terrorist attack. In this case, ostensibly, it's an international terrorist attack. I think the President will appropriately say the first thing we must do is rescue and recover. We must pray for those who are injured, pray for those who are killed, and anyone who did this, we will get them. Real simple, but focus first on rescue, recovery, and prayer, and I'm sure that's exactly what the President will do.
There is going to be a great uniting of America, isn't there, coming out of all this?
Well, yes, because this was an attack on us, and in that building, that is a melting pot of America. There are obviously thousands of people of all different walks of life, all different races, all different religions and nationalities there. And to make a political statement by destroying innocent men, women, and children is never acceptable in any moral society. And this is absolutely an affront to civilization, and the President and the country will be united and will respond accordingly, and appropriately so.
And an affront to civilization is just what you'll see in the pictures that we are about to bring you. Again, these are unedited. We cannot exactly predict what you're going to see because we haven't seen some of them ourselves. But this is video as one of the towers of the World Trade Center collapsed. You can see the sheer terror on the people as that shockwave of dust and debris rolls toward our camera crew there. And all of a sudden, it is midnight in downtown Manhattan as the crumbled concrete, as the shell of what was once Manhattan's proudest pair of buildings, as it crumbled to dust. And it is still burning, it is still on fire. Untold numbers of people are dead, untold numbers of people are trapped. The rescue effort is going to go on for days, perhaps weeks. Again, imagine the mindset of these people who were at the base of the building there, watching what they thought was nothing more than a fire. Nobody knew at this point that these buildings were going to collapse. I might bring into the conversation Howard Safer, the former chief of police, police commissioner here in New York City, also fire commissioner as well. Mr. Safer, nobody ever thought the World Trade Center would fall. I mean, that's what the terrorists tried to do back in 1993, and they weren't even close to being successful.
That's true, and even the engineer who designed the Trade Center had told me it was designed to withstand a commercial airliner attack. Obviously, that's not correct, but this is incomprehensible and just the kind of thing that, although we plan for every kind of terrorist attack, this is overwhelming for the emergency services in New York, which are some of the best in the world.
let's look at the bigger picture. I mean, everybody wants to know who did this, but it's going to take some time, isn't it?
It is. I mean, this is obviously, and you know, it's not that it's time to worry about the people who are hurt and injured, but this is obviously an intelligence failure. We're going to have to figure out not only why we didn't have the intelligence, but we have to figure out how these hijackers were able to breach airport security and what we have to do to fix that.
It could be something relatively simple. If you wanted to, I mean, I have boarded airplanes before with my pocket knife, a 3 or 4 inch blade. That can be a lethal weapon, and nobody has ever stopped me. There are limits on what kind of a knife you can take on board, but a couple of trained terrorists, trained in hand-to-hand combat, could easily get into a cockpit and commandeer a plane.
Well, that is true. Also, the quality of personnel is very important. The technology is very important. And most importantly, the way you prevent terrorism is through intelligence. You can't prevent terrorist acts when they're taking place, but you need to have the intelligence so you know about them and prevent them before they take place.
Let's check in with Molly Falconer. She's in Lower Manhattan at St. Vincent's Hospital, a scene of absolute chaos. Molly, what's going on there?
John, it has been a scene of chaos all morning. This is a hospital under siege. It's taking many of the victims up from the World Trade Center. They're running out of blood. They're running out of something called Silvadine, which treats burns. They have been raiding local pharmacies and local stores to try and get that. And I'm standing here with Kim White, who managed to make it out of Tower 1 right before it went down. And you're saying you had a hard time with some of those fire doors.
Yeah, the fire doors were locked, and we couldn't get them unlocked. It took about 10 minutes for somebody to actually come and open up the doors, and then we were able to finally head down. But then there were other doors that were locked, so we were brought into another floor when there was another explosion, and they finally let us continue to go down.
And your clothes are in shreds, and you've still got debris in your hair. Is that what happened to your colleagues, and how are they?
I have a rim, which that's how we've been able to keep contact with one another. Yes. And I had my one of my male co-workers contact me when I was in the hospital and asked me and told me that he's with the entire team. Where am I? And I told him I was at the hospital, so everybody is doing okay.
How are people feeling, and could you see anything? Was there smoke all around you?
Well, when we got down to the bottom floor, we thought we were okay, and then there was a collapse. We don't know what collapsed. There was a collapse of something. The police and fire department told us to go run to the wall and don't look outside. Next thing we know, billowing black smoke just came in, and I mean, it went down my mouth, up my nose, all over the place, and people were hysterical at that time. You couldn't see anybody. You could barely see the lights of the flashlights that were downstairs. But eventually, I think they broke a plate glass window to Borders.
They were breaking glass to try and get out?
To try to get out to Borders bookstore, and we went through down their escalator and then up another escalator to come out, and that's how we finally got out of the office.
Okay. I'll let you go. Thank you very much for stopping. And John, we are hearing a lot of victims come, some staggering, out of this hospital. We've got reports that over 160 are inside. They've turned the corridors. They even turned the hospital gym into a makeshift ER. They have hundreds of doctors and nurses on call. Obviously, their disaster plans are in effect. They've sent several triage teams downtown. They have blocked off all of 7th Avenue, which is one of these main thoroughfares right in front of the hospital here, so that they can ferry ambulances from the World Trade Center to St. Vincent's Hospital. And all morning, all we've been seeing are gurneys out on the street standing at the ready for the hundreds of ambulances, I should say dozens of ambulances that are coming in, but who knows, there are no estimates as to how many will eventually get here. A spokesman named Mark Ackerman came out a few moments ago and said he can't put an estimate on how many people will be here, but we'll keep a watch on it for you all the time. Again, there is a call out for blood and something called Silvadine. It treats burns and infections. They have already raided the local pharmacies around the hospitals, and they're calling for more. Back to you.
All right, Molly Falconer at St. Vincent's Hospital in Lower Manhattan, thank you. We want to take you out to Los Angeles now. A couple of the planes that were hijacked were bound for Los Angeles. John Dupree, our correspondent there, has some late-breaking information for us. John?
John, the ripple effect of this disaster felt clear out here on the West Coast. Three of the planes which crashed today were bound for Los Angeles International Airport, where you find me now. American flight number 11 with 92 people on board, American flight number 77 with 64 people on board, and United flight number 175 with 65 people on board, which may have crashed into the Pentagon. All bound for Los Angeles International Airport. Their numbers were not even on the arrivals board here. No one had begun to come here to pick up passengers arriving from those two cities. Now, and only now, one by one, family members and loved ones beginning to show up here at LAX, being escorted into the corporate offices at American Airlines here at Terminal 4, being escorted by United officials to a nearby hotel, being briefed on what has happened, being told that their loved ones, their family members, by all appearances most likely dead. The skies above Los Angeles International Airport, where 150 to 250,000 people each day take off and land, the busiest airport on the west coast of these United States, eerily empty. That's the effect here on the other side of the country. John Scott, back to you.
John Dupree in Los Angeles, thank you. Again, these pictures just coming into us now. This is unedited video of the pandemonium, the fear, the chaos in Lower Manhattan as the Twin Towers, the World Trade Center, the tallest buildings in Manhattan, once the tallest buildings in the world, as they collapsed in an incredible shockwave of dirt, debris, smoke, and certainly a catastrophic loss of human life. This was the reaction there in Manhattan. Nobody ever thought those towers could fall. Almost certainly the terrorists who tried to inflict this didn't think they could fall. They perhaps hoped it would happen, but nobody thought there would be this kind of catastrophic damage. William Daley and Howard Safer. William Daley, a former FBI agent who investigated the first World Trade Center bombing. Let's talk about the bigger picture once again. Sure, the terrorists wanted to inflict maximum damage, maximum loss of life, but their real goal is mental, isn't it? Aren't they trying to scare America?
That's true, John. In fact, my role was one after the incident in helping put security back in place for these once prestigious locations. And the thought is, when we do security planning and try to predict where terrorists will attack, we always think of what are the spots that are indicative of the American way, whether it's the World Trade Center, whether it's some other landmark, or what they call trophy building that they like to have exactly what we see here, be up in smoke, and for everyone to be panicked and concerned. So when we try to predict terrorist acts, we look at these, but we really, at the very far end of the spectrum, would think that would ever come down to something like this. We always looked upon something worst case, like vehicle bombs we saw in Oklahoma City, or we've seen over in Europe, individual bombings. But when we look at planes, flying bombs with people in them, which are of and by themselves would be catastrophic incidents if they occurred.
On any given day, any one of these incidents would dominate the news for weeks.
Exactly.
We've had 4 planes crash today, 3 of them deliberately into buildings, 2 at the World Trade Center towers, 1 at the Pentagon, and 1 went down in an airport area near Pittsburgh. Britt Hume is keeping an eye on the situation in the nation's capital. Let's get the latest from him. Britt?
Well, the first thing, John, is that fire at the Pentagon continues to burn out of control and going ever deeper into the building itself. One presumes that the building has been now evacuated of all but firefighting personnel. But that obviously a worrisome situation. There you see a live picture of the plume of smoke, black smoke still rising from the Pentagon. Evidently, the amount of fuel that was spilled or whatever was aboard that aircraft was sufficient to keep that blaze going apace. From Capitol Hill, we learned a couple of other things. Senator John Kyle, Republican of Arizona, said to our Brian Wilson just a short time ago that members of the leadership are in various different, congressional leadership are in various different places, in touch with each other and with the administration. We have a plan, said Kyle, and it is in place. What that's all about remains to be seen. Brian also reports that at the Capitol Police Station, J.C. Watts, Tom DeLay, both were members of the Republican House leadership, had been seen there, as well as Democrats Dick Gephardt and David Bonnier. So members of the congressional leadership here in Washington, those 4 we know about and have been seen, and they are said all to be in touch with one another as we await remarks by the President of the United States, who is at Barksdale, or is either on the ground or is about to speak from Barksdale military base, Air Force Base there outside Shreveport, Louisiana. As soon as that can be technically set up, we expect to hear from the President. We'll let you know.
All right, Britt Hume, keeping an eye on the things in